Hey everybody, it's Kathy Klotz-Guest. Happy Friday, happy Friday. Good to see you, good to see you. This is going to be the last sort of Ask Kathy Anything live tip that I do on Fridays until January. Usually I do it every 2 weeks. I did one last week, but next week is the 23rd, and I thought, I don't think anyone's really going to be around waiting for my tip. They're going to be doing their last minute Christmas shopping, eating lots of candy, breaking the bad news to their 10-year-olds that Santa doesn't exist, dealing with that. You're not going to have time for this. So I'm going to do that this week instead. So with that, I wanted to give a tip today. As always, I like to start out with a tip. And I want to give a great tip that I learned in sketch comedy. And I learned it in writing and at Second City and doing sketches and this type of thing. And it has paid dividends. Hey, Roberto. It's paid dividends in the way that I tell stories, in the way that I write stories, in the way that orally I present. And if you want to create comedy in your stories, here's the tip. Create a clash of contexts. Really easy thing to do. Most sitcoms and a lot of your favorite movies out there use this common principle. A fish out of water. You take the main character, put him or her in a situation they are completely ill-equipped to handle. Kindergarten Cop, Meet the Fockers, any of these big comedies. It's sort of a little bit formulaic, but it works. Take that main character, put them in some kind of world or context, a clash of contexts that's completely polar opposite to one that they're used to dealing with. Now the comedy comes from that character, everybody around them. How do they relate to that character? How does that character relate to this whole new world? And it's called the fish out of water. We also call it in comedy a clash of contexts. And a clash of contexts is a really effective way. It's sort of incongruous. What's incongruous? If you walked into a bar and you saw a whole bunch of people that belonged in a bar, and then you saw a priest setting up a confessional in a bar, you'd laugh. That's funny because one of those things does not belong, or maybe it does, I don't know. But when you can put people in situations that, on the surface, it just seems like they don't fit, they shouldn't be there, change them out of their ordinary context, you do something really powerful. You change the context for the conversation. So a clash of contexts, a fish out of water is just such a great, yummy, wonderful, easy to use tool for adding a little bit of comedy into your storytelling. So if you're talking about yourself, a story, heighten that. Heighten a little bit by putting yourself in a situation you were completely overwhelmed by. And you were like, oh man, they put me in front of a kindergarten class and asked me to explain politics to a kindergarten class. Or whatever the clash of context of extremes is, because that disconnect between what you're prepared to do and what your norm is and what that new situation is, that's where all the fun comes out of. So such a great, easy tool. Changing that context, and again, when you change the context for something and you give it incongruity, you change the discussion, the context for the discussion. That's a wonderful thing. And that's a way in your storytelling to heighten the comedy, ratchet up that comic situation. And then the comedy falls out of the situation. How are people going to react to you? If you were told it was a costume party and you showed up and you were the only one dressed in a costume and everybody else was dressed in like a tuxedo, oops, how does that go? Well, what came out of that situation? So don't be afraid to use a little fish out of water technique here and there. It works, it's fun, and we've all felt like it. Every once in a while, we all feel like a fish out of water. And that's normal. And people want to know, they're drawn in, and they want to know, how the heck did you solve that? Because you know what? Sometimes I feel like a fish out of water too. We all do. That's the human thing. So play up that clash of contexts. Play that up, and you're going to have a great, great time. Mered, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I love your name. It's Irish. It's beautiful. I hope I pronounced it right. Roberto, hello. Gary, hey Gary, what's up? Oh my gosh, that almost happened to you in real life? Yeah, I think about there's so many fun clash of contexts that have happened to me. So many. So I volunteered to talk to my son's kindergarten class a couple of years ago, and I didn't know what the course discussion was. They didn't tell me. So I thought I was there to do improv, and of course, life is improv. And I showed up, and they asked me to talk about, to give a really kind of, from a child's perspective, a lesson in civics and government. And they were talking about government. And I was like, I am so ill-equipped to talk about it. I'm an improviser. But being an improviser, I was able to just kind of go with it. And that's totally okay. Or maybe that clash of context where you show up for a meeting and you think it's one thing and the meeting is about something else. And you're completely prepared for topic A, and then it's topic B. How are you going to do that? You got all these people looking at you. How are you going to tackle that mountain? These are great stories. These are great fodder for fun. And everybody will laugh because they see themselves in it. We've all been there. I can just think of so many times like I did not belong. I did a thing for my son's Cub Scouts recently, and I was the only woman there. It was all dads, but my husband was traveling, so I took my son to this thing, and all the dads were telling stories, about being a dad, and I get up and I'm the only woman there, and I'm like, well, when I was a dad. But it's okay because the kids laughed, the kids thought it was funny, and anytime you get those things, I think they're really great gifts. And in improv, we look at those things and go, oh my God, that's such a great gift to give. So celebrate those times you feel a little bit out of place. And what I love about stuff like that is that you won't be the only one. Everybody has those moments. We all feel a little out of place sometimes. We all do. We all do. And so celebrate those. Celebrate those. Hey, Lisa, how are you? Good to have you here. Good to have you here. Great to have you on a Friday morning where everybody's getting ready and doing their thing, getting ready for the holidays. So that's the tip I just wanted to pass on. I think it's kind of fun. I like giving little tips I think that are practical that people can use. On Amazon, I do have a couple of ebooks on humor specifically in the Amazon store, in addition to Stop Boring Me, which is really a fully fleshed out 200-page book. So that's sort of the big, thick one versus the smaller ebooks that are a little bit more humor-oriented. But these are devices that have served me well in improv and also in my years doing sketch and learning sketch writing. So, hey, Greg, how are you? What's going on, Greg? And folks, I can stick around for a few minutes. I've got a few minutes. If you guys have questions, I'm always happy to answer those and kind of see if I can answer anything fun, or you just let me know how you guys are doing. That's cool too. Whatever you guys are kind of, whatever's percolating for you guys. Sometimes you guys have a lot of questions and sometimes not so much. Well, let me ask you this. We're gonna skip the next couple of weeks. I think people are gonna be busy on Fridays. But in the new year, what kinds of things do you want me to talk about? What questions might you have? You can always come and ask them here, and you can also email me as well. I'll take those over email. Chances are, if you've got a question on something, somebody else has a question on stuff too. One question I got over email a couple of days ago was, how do you get, if you're doing some kind of interactive storytelling thing, and how do you get executives involved? And I think, actually, believe it or not, executives love to play just as much as everybody else. So when executives see that everybody else is playing, they want to get involved as well. So one of the things that I like to do is, if an executive you think is a little bit resistant to getting involved in whatever you're doing, I invite them to model. So I'll say, well, hey, how about, hey, Nancy, how about coming up here and you and I will model really quickly using improv for everybody else. And they love that. They love sort of being involved and kind of modeling for everybody else. But I do find that when executives are having a good time and everybody else is having a good time, I see that wall come down and they just want to play like everybody else. They're just as playful as everybody else. So, great question. All right, everybody. If you've got questions, like I say, I'll stick around for a few more minutes. If not, totally okay. I hope whatever is percolating for you guys this morning you're doing great. All right. Sometimes Facebook's kind of funny. I can scroll only a certain part and I don't see any questions. And then sometimes I'll end the video and then I see the questions afterwards. So I'm hoping I'm not missing any of your questions, but it's totally cool because you can always type in a question if you have it. And then what I'll do after the video, after I end the video, is I'll go back in and I'll answer the questions. That's no problem. I do that all the time. So if you don't have any questions, I will see you on the next one of these, which will be, oh my gosh, in 2017. So have a great holiday season, everybody. And take care.